Welcome to this week's Harmonic Pulse. And, you know, I'll be honest, it feels um, uncomfortable showing up each week. And I'm really doing this for me so that I'm shifting out of old patterns and programs of my conditioning and really starting to show up as who I'm meant to be, who I came here to be, and to share the wisdom that I've gained along the way to help and support you. So here I am, reclaiming my voice, my joy, and just really sharing what's really alive in my heart, even when it feels a little bit tender. Okay, so this week we're exploring what I call the soul principle of reciprocity. And really, it's the foundation of living in the new earth. It's not about obligation or transactional engagement or this kind of tit for tat, but really as an energetic frequency. It's a living exchange that replenishes both the giver and the receiver. And so true reciprocity isn't about just like keeping the score, who gave what when and who is owed. It's really about being met. And so I'll just share a little story of my path. And when I first stepped into the world of entrepreneurship, and this is when I was I'd been working in television, and then I decided to step out on my own. Originally had a dream of being a documentary filmmaker, and I was making like short films for mainly charities and organizations. And so when I first stepped out into the world of entrepreneurship, I showed up freely with my creativity, with my ideas, and with my light. And I really expected the same openness and generosity. And, I thought perhaps, well, it was very innocent. I innocently thought, I offer something special and you offer something special. And so we both walk away feeling nourished. But sadly, that's not how most of the old world works. I was really met with siphoning, extraction, or worse, simply disregard. And, it was really, really painful, especially when I didn't yet know how to honor my own light or wield my gifts with clarity. And so I was thinking this week, it was really like the early stage magician. We're powerful but unaware. And when we don't know how to use our power wisely, it can become poison rather than medicine, not just for others, but for ourselves, right? And so I was thinking of the character, what's her name? Elphaba from Wicked, or even the young wizards in Harry Potter. And their magic was real, but it really had to be refined through presence and practice. And so the same is true for us. Our energy must be wielded with integrity, or else it distorts. And of course, growing up, I could really see beneath the layers. But as a child, I didn't know that I was a seer, didn't know that I had this visionary ability. And so I would show up offering my light, only to be discarded or misunderstood. Or then I'd kind of swing the other side and I would withhold until someone proved that they could see me first. And, thinking about it now, neither approach really brought me the nourishment that I really deeply longed for. And so I've learned through trial and tenderness that reciprocity is not just a principle, it's really a frequency and it lives in the body. And when we honor it, when we step into a whole new paradigm of exchange, this paradigm where energy flows, it doesn't leak, where giving comes from joy and receiving is welcomed without feeling guilty or that we owe someone something. and where we take only what we need and give from overflow, just like nature. And so this week's resonance note is I invite you to notice, where do you give from obligation, or, really when you already feeling depleted and you haven't got anything more to give? And then where do you, or on the opposite end of the scale, where do you withhold out of fear of being unmet? And then what would it feel like to give only when it feels true, and to trust that life will return the nourishment in perfect timing, in perfect form? Because this is the new earth reciprocity, the Edenic reciprocity. And it's not about being perfect, it's about choosing balance. And this imperfection is gonna show up because, we're learning something new, we're learning a new way of being. And as long as our heart is true, then eventually, it's going to start unfolding in a beautiful way, I feel. And so, lastly, if you are walking this path where you're stepping into the new earth, and learning to, to give and receive reciprocal, I can't say that, learning how to give without like leaking your energy, and then to receive without guilt. And I do welcome you to join me in my offerings, where inside we're exploring really how to live and create from this new frequency, this new earth frequency. And I see it where, every act of service is helping us to nurture this harmony and balance in the world, which, for many centuries, many lifetimes, it's been completely imbalanced. The giving and receiving ratio has been completely out of balance. So we want to bring it back into balance, into harmony, and really give from joy. That is the gift. And so, yeah, I'd love to hear from you. If you've got any comments about this, do drop them below. And I'll see you next week for next week's Harmonic Pulse.